Hi everybody, Jeff Simon here for SocialFlight. In our last video, we lit up the panel, which was an extremely exciting step. This time what I'd like to do is show you a little bit about the panel in detail, how it works, and why it's modular for maintenance. Because if you saw like way back when we were designing how we were going to build this, one of the important things about everything on this Mustang is how it's going to be maintained. So if you imagine stepping back and thinking about doing maintenance on this aircraft when it is completely done, you would have to slide the canopy back, lean over here, and somehow get your head like down in the footwells to look up at the back of the panel. It's not going to be easy. And we didn't want to do too much from the outside of the aircraft. We wanted to do as much as possible from the inside. And so there's a couple things I'd like to demonstrate here before I light it up for you again and give you a tour of what we've really got. The first is this sub panel. Down here is our switch panel, and we'll talk about the design of that. But the most important thing for maintenance is how it's removed. Now, I've removed these perimeter screws, and there's a couple things that are interesting about how this was done. One of the things about it is you see there's air vents on the left and the right. And what's nice about this is normally you would attach ducting directly to the back of these air vents. But in our case, what we did is we put ducting on the sub panel. That's where those vents, that's where that scat hose attaches. What that means is, again, this can easily be removed without any hoses coming out along with it. The other thing we did is we made it so this entire panel can come out into your lap to get worked on, and in fact removed if you need to from the aircraft. Now I'm going to start. I've already gone and used the 3/32 hex key to loosen this, but I'm going to take out our Avidyne audio panel here, because normally we would certainly remove an Avionics instrument before pulling the panel. But what I want to show you here is how easily, once these few screws come out, we can go and just pull this entire panel out and basically put it in your lap so that you can go and work on it. And I can even pull it back here, and you can see, based on the way the entire thing's been designed, you can get to the back of everything. It's really clean. It's been done with these nice bus bars. Everything's insulated and connected. It's very easy to see things and work on it. And literally, it's that easy to take this entire thing out. And then here, while it's out, you can kind of see that we've got this sub panel that has where the ducting's attached, and back here we have these parts that actually fit directly into it. And so just as easily as that, I can go and put this back into place. That gets locked in, and then also the screws would go in to secure it. And then of course I'd put my audio panel back in place. I'd get a hex key if I was completely done with this, tighten it all the way up. Now that's great, but what about the top part of the panel where all the avionics sit and the rest of our instruments, of course? Well, in this case, we did the same thing. We put all of the, we put together, I guess, all of the wires into bundles that have excess. And we used this guide of our windshield bow, our canopy bow right here, as how far everything has to be able to come back. And so in this case, I've also removed the perimeter screws. Now normally, of course, I would remove the avionics before pulling this back, but I just want to demonstrate for you. We created a rail system that secures this entire thing and a sub panel, as we showed in an earlier video. And so in that case, I can again pull this entire panel and it will remove into the aircraft. As you see here, this whole thing can come out to get worked on, and I can pull it out. Again, I'm going to wait for the instruments to come out, but I could take this the whole way basically into my lap to get into everything from the inside of the aircraft without bending over, anything like that. Now, in addition to that, forward in the nose area of the aircraft will be access panels that I can get into the next bay forward. So we've got this panel here that's removable. We've got the substructure for it. You can get to everything here that's underneath our windshield with no problem. And then one more bay forward, we've got access panels, and all of this just slides back into place, has this nice rail system. I'll wait until I can be off video to put it in properly. But there we go. But it all will go back into place and just sit flush. So I just want to show how this has been built for maintenance. And now let's take a tour of the Avionics and what we chose. So let's talk about the panel of our Titan T-51D Mustang and why we made some of these choices. Well, the first thing to know is that we wanted some consistency between this and the Bonanza that we fly for SocialFlight to get to all of our events. And that is because, of course, we want to be able to take this to events so that all of you can see it at AirVenture and Sun and Fun, etc. Now, in getting to those events, it's also important that this aircraft is IFR capable so we can actually get there. Normally, you take an aircraft like this that you just want to toss around the sky and put some minimal instruments in it and just go out there and have some fun. But I really wanted this to be a traveling machine as well. There's so many places we want to take it and have fun, show people, give rides, etc., that I wanted to make sure that we could get there safely as well with IFR equipment. And so between the having all of that consistency with where we get all of our IFR currency when we fly, as well as the capability of these instruments, it was a no-brainer as to how we were going to kind of start with both navigation and our primary instrument to use in our panel. And that is our Aspen and our Avidyne IFD. And so let me start with the Aspen. This is their Evolution Max Pro. I absolutely love this instrument. You know, it's really easy to go these days just for these smaller units that just take up one space for an attitude indicator, another for an HSI, and keep them separate. But what I love about the Aspen is that you have all of this vertical space that you can configure in different ways, especially when you switch it into synthetic vision mode. Now, in here, inside of our living room where I don't have a GPS signal, I can't actually put it into synthetic vision mode right now. But if you were to see that, it's a top to bottom image. We do that in the Bonanza and fly that way fairly often, and it just has such great situational awareness because you can see airports and traffic in 3D coming at you. You can see on an approach really all the information that you need, and all of it is separated by this data block in the center, which I really love, with true airspeed and glide and everything that you need with your ground speed, outside air temperature information. There's so much data that's able to be presented here in all of these different formats that I just love it as the centerpiece for everything that we do, and it's so well integrated from top to bottom. And of course the Max upgrade, which is what they do right now, and what this unit is even brighter and crisper than some of the other units that came before it. So great centerpiece for it. From here we move on to the right to our IFD 550. Now, I'm a huge fan of Avidyne. I have flown behind Avidyne equipment for so long, and one of the things that I really love about it is it simply is intuitive. You don't have to think about how to do something. Even for things that are complex. I have taken people and put them in the aircraft who haven't even used it before, who say that they come from like another brand of navigator or something like that, and I've said, I'll tell you what, pick this waypoint and set it up for a hold, and they can actually figure out pretty quickly how to set up a hold, which then the aircraft will actually just fly. So even something as complicated as that is simple, very, very easy. And you've got this nice map page, of course. You can click and have a data block. And also, when we're flying this, if you get bumped around, you're moving around in the aircraft, one of the things I like is the fact that Avidyne has not just settled only on touch or only on buttons. It's a hybrid system of touch, and therefore you have all of these buttons to rest your hand on if you're getting bumped around, which can easily happen in a light aircraft like this. And you can grab a button, you can control everything through the buttons and through the knobs, or everything that you need through the actual touch as well, or some combination. And these rockers along the bottom of this display, they have multiple functions. So not only can I click on the map here, but I can actually click on the right hand side of it and tab through these pages for charting, for map, etc. And it's going to have so many features. And one of the cool things you'll notice, this has an SVS button, because in addition, as a primary backup here, I can actually put synthetic vision here on my navigator as well. That is super cool. The other thing, if I go through here, FMS, there's lots of videos out there about how easy the Avidyne flight management system is to use. Super easy. It's easy. You can look things up. You can get data for just about everything at one touch. You just saw me go from flight plan to info to my route, waypoint information, back to the map, scrolling all sorts of different data that might be available here. Here's a real cool thing. In addition to things like charts that you're used to seeing, there's a tab on this one for video. And we have a camera setup we're going to show in a future video here that lets us click on this video tab and be able to actually see when we're taxiing a video forward so that we don't have any blind spots. And then when we're in the air, we're going to have both forward and aft videos, that cameras that we can switch to, so that when we're doing our testing and even seeing the landing gear coming up, we can see that from the cockpit, which is so amazingly cool. Moving down from our Avidyne here, we have our Lynx transponder. Absolutely love the Lynx. It gives us both traffic and terrain, all of the information that we have here. We'll do a future video where we talk a lot more about what that does, as well as each of these individually. Now let's move to the left. Strange thing that you might see here is this analog airspeed indicator, and that is just my personal preference, where when you are doing aerobatics, which we're definitely going to do in this Mustang, I just am personally attached to doing aerobatics using an analog instrument. I just like doing that, seeing the speed bleed off and things like that. So I decided I wanted to have that right here to the left of the Aspen. I won't use it in cruise at all, but it's my instrument to use when we're doing some fun poking holes in the sky and doing some aerobatics. Below that here we have the what we're using. This is JPI's EDM 350 unit, which is also available from Bendix King as their unit that also does engine instrumentation for experimental aircraft. Now, this is a really interesting thing, because when we're dealing with an automotive engine, and in this aircraft we've got an LM4, a GM V8 engine, water-cooled LM4, because we are going for V8, we're going for the sound and the power and the same type of water cooling that the original Mustang had, with the same radiator down in the belly. Well, when doing that, there's some limitations about what any of the aircraft instruments for engine monitoring can do. And so EGT and CHT, not really so important for that. But having your manifold pressure and your RPMs on here and your oil temperature, oil pressure, fuel pressure, all of the other things, this gives us a lot of data that we can use, and we will be able to use this for a lot of information, and hopefully we're gonna find a way to incorporate our water temperature instead of an actual cylinder temperature, and at least have that available through this as well. Primary right in front of the pilot up here. Over on these sides over here, we have instruments from RC Allen. Absolutely love these. Go check them out. They're very inexpensive, solid gauges that you can get just as nice backups over here in our panel, and I really just love it. They're 1510 down here. Lets me do a few things, so we just wanted some backups here, and I love having that there from them. And over here on the far side, we have something that is just so cool. It is the uAvionix AV20, which I'm going to use primarily, first and foremost, as a G meter, because I want to be able to see G forces when we're actually flying. And when you look at the cost of G meters, it's actually cheaper in most cases to get this instrument than even a goofy regular G meter, and it's fantastic what it does, because that is probably the smallest feature that uAvionix does in their AV20. If we actually page through here and we show the different things, those are all the different pages for that. This will even do angle of attack, which of course we'll also have in front of us from our Aspen unit. If I go and I page through, it'll do our timer and our clock and countdowns and things we can use for IFR. different clocks that do that, and flight timers. It'll give us our battery voltage on that screen. It's got, it even has an attitude indicator, which is so cool, and will actually let you do that as well. So crazy amount of information that comes out on that. And all the way to the right, we have our TrueTrack autopilot, which is also an Aero Cruise 100 from Bendix King, and this gives us our autopilot information. We have on top the indicator here, which is a Flex Alert from Approach Aviation, and our trim instruments that are going on. So this gives you some kind of a tour for why we did some of this, and it is not lost on me that this is a way over the top panel, without a doubt. And I love that it's what I call a federated panel. What that means is these are all different manufacturers that are motivated to work together. Aspen and Avidyne are just known for continuously improving their products and working with everybody. So it doesn't matter what transponder you use, what other instruments are coming into it, what fuel and engine monitor and other things are working. They work with everybody, both Aspen and Avidyne, and they are constantly improving their products. So you're constantly getting software updates with new features and things like that. I just love it. And so we will have ADS-B coming from our links here. It'll be displayed on our Avidyne, it'll be displayed on our Aspen, and it'll give us all that information for traffic and weather. Very, very cool stuff. All of this in our panel by a bunch of players that are all motivated to work together, and it's just a lot of fun. A quick tour down here now about our switch panel to show how we did this. When we came up with our switching panel, and it's not, I'll also point out that down at the bottom here, of course, we have our audio panel, which is also from Avidyne, the AMX 240. Love this because it works very, very closely with the Avidyne IFD 550 and with all Avidyne's IFD units. One of the things that it does is by working together, they are able to display and decode any frequency that you're using and tell you who you're talking to when you're actually doing that. So it's really a very, very cool thing that I like having up so that I can tune in a frequency and it will literally tell me who I'm talking to as you keep pushing through. And we did a video, if you look on YouTube, from NBAA that showed how in your flight plan it'll actually show you all the different centers you're going to talk to in air traffic facilities in your route automatically and tell you what their name is so you know how to talk to them. By using the panel down here, one thing you'll notice is that we have the ability by doing this to listen to your backup, and then you can actually have multiple backups since we only have one radio right now that we're using, and our portable is going to be our actual backup if needed. So very, very cool things going on here. Absolutely love the way that all of this works together. Now back to our switches. The way that we have all this is that our right-hand side of the panel is, we were thinking about this, and I was thinking, when do you want hands on throttle and stick? That's how you're flying the aircraft. And if you're going to be able to take a hand off, chances are it's not going to be your stick, it's going to be your actual throttle, which you're going to set. This has an actual throttle lock. We can have that in place, and then that's free. Therefore, because of that, we felt during the starting procedure, I want to be able to move my throttle, and I want to use the switches on the right to go battery, primary battery, backup battery, alternator on, my gear power, my fuel pumps, and then my starter switch. Get the engine running. All of these stay on or in whichever position for our cruise flight as necessary. These are our critical switches for flying, and that's over here on our right. So all of that is a kind of the on the ground one-time usage except for emergencies, and then your hands on the stick. That leaves these left switches for the ones that you're going to actually control, and so during flying. And so those are things like our transfer pump for moving fuel from our reserve tank, which is in the turtle deck. So in that case, I'm flying along, I can flip on this transfer pump. We'll talk in another video about how that works and what we're measuring that to see our fuel flow. Next, I've got pitot heat, I've got nav lights, landing lights, strobes, all the information that kind of is done here, a cooling fan, which is used when you're on the ground and taxiing to provide additional cooling going through the radiator. If you have an extended taxi like at AirVenture or something like that, you need to keep cooling going on. So all of that is here on the left, and that gives you all the information that you need. So that's a little bit of a tour for how we came up with why we structured our panel, and I hope that answers all of your questions that so many people have emailed me with. Until next time, I'm Jeff Simon for SocialFlight. Be sure to check out SocialFlight.com and the free mobile apps for Android and Apple devices. Just go to SocialFlight.com, play our Fly to Win challenge where we're giving away so many cool prizes. That's something you definitely want to do. It is all free, and of course while you're in there, be sure to click on the FAA credits icon in the menu, because we have an entire section where you can get credit for wings programs, for AMT programs, and even get your IA renewal if you're a mechanic with an inspection authorization, all through SocialFlight, all completely free. And that's all brought to you by us and our partnership with the FAA. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and I wish you all blue skies.